Hello, everyone. Thank you for continued interest to the topic. Today, I will provide further updates on the agricultural production and trade in the context of Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I will cover grain and oilseeds production in Ukraine, also use of fertilizers and pesticides. I will speak about grain and oilseeds export from Ukraine, and I also have some relevant information about production and export from Russia. So let's start with the production, the latest data that I have. Recently, State Statistics Service of Ukraine finalized the result of grain and oilseed harvest in 2023 and also updated 2022. I can say that there are significant difference with the previous estimates, but this data is more accurate. Ukrstat obviously didn't take into consideration occupied territories, but also excluded some areas where the military actions are or were conducted to make data more comparable. As a result, we have a little bit less shown production of wheat as expected, amounted 21.6 million tons, but we have more corn, over 31 million tons, which is much better result than we could imagine. Our previous estimates were 29.5 million tons, since we were not sure about the harvest that was continuing till the end of March. Also, Ukrainian farmers were able to harvest around 5.5 million tons of barley, almost 12.8 million tons of sunflower seeds, 4.7 million tons of soybean, and 4.2 almost million tons of rapeseeds. For all crops, yields this year are higher than in previous year, in average for 20%. And for oil crops in average for 10%. For some crops, yields were even better than in 2021. But of course, our gross harvest was lower due to the loss of some territories. In 2023, we harvested 10.8 million hectares of grain crops, totaling 59.8 million tons of grain, and 8.6 million tons of oil crops, million hectares, of oil crops, totaling 21.8 million tons of oil seeds. There are many changes in crop structure and replacement of grain crops with oil crops, especially soybeans and rapeseed, which we'll discuss a little bit later. That is mainly because oil crops have higher liquidities, and we will talk about this. There are also some updates in winter crops that planted, in general, plus 180 hectares, mainly to winter wheat areas. Totally, it was planted around 6.1 million hectares of winter crops, including 4.4 million hectares of winter wheat and almost 1.2 million hectares of rapeseeds. This is a very good result considering war condition. Unfortunately, planted areas of winter crops in 2023 is less than in 2022 for various reasons, such as changes in the position of front line, as well as cutting egg production due to lack of profitability and shortage of inputs and labor. I read about some farmers that were sowing in the end of December, snow-covered field, and this actually photo that I have here, it's real. Spring campaign is in progress. We already planted more than expected of spring wheat, and you can see that it's already almost 250,000 hectares. But actually, crops of spring crops area are gonna be pretty close, I believe, to 2023. Since we lost part of territories that were traditionally winter crops, farmers in other regions started to grow more spring wheat because south and southeast, that was mostly winter wheat, and currently it is occupied by Russia. Also, farmers on some liberated and demined territories planted spring crops because they were not able to plant winter crops. So that's why we can observe over 50% increase in soybean crops, and also some sunflower crops gonna be probably higher, but not for now. We also we see some increase in buckwheat areas, and as I mentioned, in spring wheat. But for us, there is some decrease, and we will talk about this more detail, looking at all those maps that I prepared for today. But before talking more detail about each crop, let's take a quick look on the updated map of mines pollution in Ukraine. I want you to keep this in mind, this picture in mind, because it will correlate it with all those maps I have today for you. All territories that are in red are occupied. Moreover, dark red here, that is territories that occupied since 2014. And now they probably have some production, but they report to Russia. There are also some liberated areas here in a little bit in Kherson region, Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy, and Kharkiv. But those areas cannot be fully cultivated due to high risk of potential hazards. So when you will see fully colored sections of mentioned regions on the following maps, remember that production happens only on those free territories that are demined after liberation or controlled by Ukraine. So let's start with corn, which has the largest production among other crops in Ukraine. We can observe gradual decrease in cultivated areas since the beginning of the war, mostly in all regions. If in 2022 we had, in 2021 we had almost 5.5 million hectares of corn. In 2023, we had around 4 million hectares, and our expectation for 2024 is 3.9 million hectares. I also want you to remind that in 2014, Russia occupied Crimea and a significant part of Donetsk and Lugansk region. This is why we had such a decrease in corn area in 2014. However, since then, structure of crops has changed, and some central regions started to produce more grain than ever. For example, Poltava Oblast planted almost 650,000 hectares of corn in 2021. Chernihiv had 550,000 hectares, Sumy 460. But unfortunately, after the occupation, after liberation of those regions, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kiev, and Kharkiv Oblast, in those oblasts, corn sown area decreased by a third, at least by a third in general. At the same time, corn sown area decreased in almost all regions of Ukraine. And you can see how much lighter colors are on the map. The reason is high losses from the corn production. Farmers for 2 years in a row were not able to harvest corn on time and waited till spring to finish harvesting, and some farmers even never did it. So as a result, production decreased for over 10 million tons. And we again can observe much lighter colors all over map of Ukraine. However, 2023 had very favorable weather conditions and Ukrainian farmers received more than expected. But in 2024, at the best scenario, we can have approximately what we had in 2022. However, corn yields per hectare, even they had positive dynamics over last decade, next year we do not expect such high yields. And in general, like we look like it looks like it was positive general trade, but that is because farmers with high productivity continue to stay in the industry, and farmers with low productivity cut their corn production and also switch into some other crops. That is why kind of we have this higher trend of corn yields in general. Wheat harvested area also decreased significantly. In 2023, we harvested 2.5 million hectares, less than in 2021. I'm sorry, we harvested 5 million hectares, less than in 2021 for 2.5 million hectares. And as corn, it has negative trends for southern area. The largest wheat crops, mainly winter crops, were located in south and southeast of Ukraine, which are currently occupied or very close to military action. And we can see this on the map with very light colors now, because just little part of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk region remain under Ukrainian control. There is some, at least, color, so they have some production, but it is very, very dangerous for farmers to continue farm, and it's really hard logistic to get their seeds or fertilizers or any other inputs. Before the war, we can see that Zaporizhia, which is almost all region is occupied, was the leader, having over 700,000 hectares of wheat, and also Odessa had 680,000 hectares. Kharkiv had almost 600,000 hectares. Kherson almost 500,000 hectares. Now is actually Odessa is the leader, and this is from the point of view of logistics, because this is actually a region which is the most close to all ports, and that's why many farmers trying to increase their wheat production. However, you can see that in 2024, we expect a little bit less production in Odessa region, around 550,000 hectares, and one of the reasons is very low profitability. But also there is a necessity to have some crop rotation from the agri-technology point of view. Before the war, Ukraine had very positive tendency of increasing wheat production due to gradual increase in yields. In 2023, despite the war and lower rate of fertilizer application, Ukraine had the record average yields ever. It was 4.64 tons per hectare. In 2024, we hope to keep this productivity at least at the level of 2021. Again, we can observe a lot of lighter colors in 2023 all over map of Ukraine. If in 2021, Kharkiv was the leader, producing 2.8 million tons of wheat, then Zaporizhia 2.7 million tons, and Odessa 2.6 million tons, and also Dnipropetrovsk, 2.5 million tons, and Kherson, over 2 million tons. In 2023, Kharkiv had only 980,000 tons, Zaporizhia 300,000 tons. Odessa didn't lose much, just they had 2.3 million tons, Dnipropetrovsk 1.7, almost a half less, and Kherson 0. If we sum up all this southeastern wheat belt of Ukraine, then in 2021, this production was 17.4 million tons. And in 2021, it was only 2023, it was only 7.2. So Ukraine lost over 10 million tons of production potential. At the same time, some region located closer to western border, for example, Ivano-Frankivsk, Rivne, they tried to increase some production of wheat, but you cannot see this really much on the color changes. But even though it will be really hard for those other regions to compensate such a huge potential that we lost, unless they will double their yields. Barley, the strongest downward trend is observed in the barley market. For the last decade, barley area decreased more than twice, from over 3 million hectares in 2013 to 1.5 million hectares in 2023. And next year, we expect another 200,000 hectares left. The largest crops of barley before the war, mainly winter barley, were located in Odessa, Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Kherson, Zaporizhia Oblast. But you can see now how lighter those colors became. And in if you would compare 2021 with what we have now, Odessa Oblast had 370,000 hectares of barley, but in 2021 they will have around 200,000, like 170,000 hectares less. There is also significant drop in Mykolaiv region that you can see from and Dnipropetrovsk also region, actually also you can see this in color, from 300 and 250,000 hectares respectively to 160 and 120,000 hectares. Again, we see that in some Ukrainian controlled areas in Kherson and Zaporizhia and Donetsk and Lugansk region, barley is still being sown, even they're very close to active hostilities. Although there is a positive trend in the barley yields, which increased over 1 million per hectare during the last decade, the gross harvest decreased almost twice due to decrease of sown areas. Again, only farmers who have high productivity remain in this sector. Many are switching to more profitable crops, or let's better say this way, that they are switching to crops that bring less losses, because actually all grain production was unprofitable since the beginning of the war. The leader are still Odessa and Mykolaiv. However, they produce much less. In 2021, they produced 1.5 and 116 million tons respectively. And now Odessa gonna have Odessa had in 2023 1 million ton, and Mykolaiv just 500,000 ton. So this is how grain market changed. Let's talk a little bit about oilseed production. Here we can see opposite dynamic, and this is positive kind of. Regions are getting darker, as you can see, in even 2024, even darker than 2023. Many farmers are switching to oil crops because they bring less losses, and in some cases, like soybeans, they are even profitable, very low but still profitable. Another reason is availability of domestic processing and well-established production and export of oil seeds and oilseed by processed products. But there are also some complications related to electricity, and if you follow news, what is going on in Ukraine, recently Ukraine was bombed again several times badly, and again, all electrical infrastructure, which was kind of repaired, again destroyed, and Ukraine needed to even import electricity from Europe. And also now a lot of regions from time to time take their power off and stay without any power for whole region for several hours to kind of compensate and generate additional electricity for night time. So also total crop area under sunflower decreased for approximately 1.3 million hectares due to loss of territories. Some regions like Dnipropetrovsk, Kirovohrad, Mykolaiv, and Odessa, and also Cherkasy are increasing sunflower production. In 2021, Dnipropetrovsk and Kirovohrad had 600,000 hectares of sunflower crops each. In 2023, they had more, and in 2024 they are planting 770 and 660,000 hectares respectively. Of course, sunflower crops are the most exhausting crops to soil, and even having the richest soil on the world, Ukraine cannot continue to increase its production indefinitely. We also can observe increasing trends in sunflower seeds yields, which together with increased sown area is resulting in increased production. Of course, it is less than in 2021, but we produced in 2023 1.5 million tons more than in 2022, and we expect further increase in 2024 for about 2 million tons. With such changes in the structure of crop production, Ukraine needs to rethink some logistic strategies and ensure uninterrupted processing and also availability of storage facilities in those regions where they needed mostly, and related to types of crops that region is switching. So soybeans looks like the most prospective crop in Ukraine for now. Although we had some decrease in its sown area since occupation of Crimea and Donbass by Russia, after the beginning of the full-scale invasion, it has constant increasing trend. Opposite to grain crops map, now you can see that many regions are getting darker and brighter. In 2024, the leader is going to be Khmelnytsky with 215,000 hectares of soybeans versus 140 in 2021. Then Poltava with 204,000 hectares versus 122 in 2021. Then Vinnytsia with 170,000 hectares versus 80 in 2021. Then, for example, Zhytomyr 166 versus 116. As we can see, central and eastern Ukraine has significant changes in crop structure that need to be considered in the new agrarian policy. We completely lost, unfortunately, soybean production in Kherson region, which by itself produced around 300,000 tons of soybean before the war. But at the same time, we can see that Poltava and Khmelnytsky in 2023 produced over 550,000 tons each. Poltava almost doubled their production, and this is not only due to increased harvested area, but also due to increased yield. Next year, we have very ambitious plans to produce 5.2 million tons of soybeans, which opens for Ukraine new processing and export possibilities. Rapeseeds. The area under rapeseeds had a similar trend as soybeans. It was some drop after the Russian invasion in 2014. Then Ukrainian farmers rearranged their crops and increased areas under rapeseeds. After 2018, we had another slight decrease, but since the beginning of the war, a full-scale invasion, rapeseed crops are increasing. The leader now is Dnipropetrovsk and Odessa region. Unfortunately, Ukraine doesn't publish relevant information about spring rape seeds. So I cannot compare this because this is winter, both winter and spring, and this is just only winter rape seeds. But we can see that totally we planted 1.2 million hectares of winter rape seeds, and usually we have around 50,000 hectares of spring rape seeds. This year we probably will have a little bit more, but it still can be less than in 2023. In terms of production, Ukraine has also positive dynamics on the rapeseed, both due to higher yields, as you can see, positive dynamics, and also some bigger sown areas in some region. We expect a little bit less production next year because the area gonna be a little bit lower. We can see that Odessa became a leader in 2023, producing almost 500,000 tons of rapeseed, and then Vinnytsia, where I'm from, with 425,000 tons in 2023, which is almost twice more than it was in 2021. So as you can see, totally we really increased our rapeseed production, and it was kind of a record rapeseed production, and we hope to stay pretty close next year. So I will stop here and for questions, if we have questions. Rich, are you there?
Yeah, folks, there are a couple here. The first one, in general, what would you say the overall picture for Ukraine? Is it getting better or worse?
I cannot say that it's getting better or worse because we all heard that Russia is kind of counterattacking again Ukraine, but since we finally started to receive some aid, including military aid from United States and other countries, we hope the situation will get better. In terms of agricultural production, in general, situation is not getting better because logistics is still very complicated. After 2 years without any profit, farmers are not able to buy inputs enough, and we have also some shortage of labor. So the situation in agriculture is getting more complicated, and with all energy infrastructure destroyed, even more complicated in terms of processing. So we don't have enough fertilizers. We didn't apply enough fertilizers for 2 years in a row. So it's not getting better in general, but we still hope that we will survive and we will win this war. And we fight hard. both on a battlefield and also on an agricultural field.
And then the other question, soybeans are the most what kind of crop? And I didn't catch what it might be. It was about 4 minutes ago.
Oh, that was the most profitable, and like we have more prospects perspective on this crop. We want to increase this crop because this is the only crop which farmers have profit from the soybean production. So this is what we try to change our structure.
Thanks. Folks, if you have anything else, go ahead and put it in here now. We'll give you just a bit, but we will move on if we don't have anything else.
Okay, then we already started to talk about fertilizers, and let's take a look of the newest data provided by State Statistics Service of Ukraine. So as you can see, it was positive trend. We increased constantly our usage of fertilizers. It was some drop in 2014, 14 and 15 due to beginning of the Russian invasion. And as you know or not know, I don't know, before the 2014, we had a lot of supply of fertilizers from Russia and Belarus, but since then we rearranged our import. We started also to produce a little bit more domestically, but also import a lot from other regions, both from post-Soviet countries and also from Europe. And in 2021, as you remember, that was very favorable year for Ukraine. Weather was good and our yields were the highest, but that is not only due to the weather, but also the highest rates of application of fertilizers. And that is both in total of country, which is more than 2.8 million tons totally in Ukraine, including almost 2 million of nitrogen, 500,000 of potash, phosphate, sorry, and 400,000 of potash. And you can see that per hectare, those rates were also very, very high. But unfortunately, with the beginning of the war, of course, total usage of fertilizer decreased, and this is both due to loss of territories, but also, as you can see, per hectare. Like per hectare, in average, it was less than almost 40 kilograms per hectare. And in 2023, even more. The territory in 2023 compared to 2022 haven't changed much. That is under control of Ukraine, and which is sown. The structure changed, but the total agricultural area haven't changed much. But application of inorganic fertilizers really decreased again, and even per hectare now it's almost 85 kg per hectare, which means that we will lose our yields, and of course it will result in our total production. This is changes in inorganic and organic fertilizers usage, because some farmers decided to switch since they didn't have inorganic fertilizers and were not able to buy. Some farmers, what I saw by regions, they tried to replace somehow with organic, but it didn't help much, because the area treated with organic fertilizers is much lower compared to the area treated with inorganic fertilizers. And you can see that a share of areas that treated is lower for 20% in 2022 compared to 2021, and another almost 5% lower in 2023. It means that even area that is sown with crops haven't changed much, The application of fertilizers are decreasing, and some areas staying just not used because farmers just cutting their production and not able to produce enough because they don't have inputs. So this is the same with organic fertilizers. And this is maybe too busy table, but I wanted to leave it since 2013 and show you how much we increased all usage of fertilizers for different crops. For example, for cereals, including wheat, corn is here separated so that you can see and compare then how much changes in 2022 and 2023 compared to the pre-war 2021. And you can see that for wheat, farmers applied almost 40% less of inorganic fertilizers in 2022. Even some of them had already fertilizers prepared or left from previous period. They were not able to buy enough. And last year, 2023, they even more decreased application of fertilizers for cereal crops. And we can see this in production. It's resulted in production. As I mentioned last year, that was really, really favorable weather for us. And this is the only reason. With such application of fertilizers, almost 3 times less than in 2021, we still have pretty good harvest due to our rich soil, right, and good weather, but we cannot keep it for long if we will not apply enough fertilizers. The same for corn, but the decrease here a little bit lower. And in 2023, farmers applied almost the same as in 2022. However, we saw that production of corn will shrink because farmers don't want to deal with harvesting in March. They would better plant some winter wheat, or they would plant some sunflower or soybeans. This is industrial crops. We call all crops industrial that are processed, including oil crops, but also sugar beets and some others. But in general, that was not so huge decrease because the application rates are a little bit different, and that is actually resulted in such a good yields. And farmers also understood that oil crops are more profitable, and that's why they try to apply more fertilizers for oil crops, because they can more benefit from that rather than for cereals. So this is kind of tendency now. Pesticides, it's also an issue, not so huge as fertilizers because we produce them domestically. But anyway, you can see that total usage of pesticides decreased. If in 2021 we used around 27,000 million tons, now we used 27,000 tons. Now that is around 18, and didn't change much in 2023 compared to 2022. And usage of pesticides per hectare also haven't changed significantly. However, it is also lower. If we look at the areas that treated with pesticides, it's also decreased for almost 20%. No much changes in 2022 to 2023, but it's still 4 million hectares less treated than were treated in 2021. If we will look again in terms of different crops, we can see in general how much usage of pesticides changed for cereals and legumes. If in 2021 totally was more than 5.5 million tons of pesticides used. In 2022, that was 3.2, and 2023, that is 2.9. For crop, it's not for corn crops. It's not such a huge decrease, but still, you can see that it's almost 40%, 37. But in 2023, even worse. So the situation is getting worse and worse each year. And I want to emphasize one more time that if we will not solve the issue with fertilizer supply, and it will still remain so expensive, farmers will not be able to produce enough due to lower application rate, and this will exhaust more and more our rich soil. I have the question from Dan. Have transportation problems by railroad to the EU improved, and have water vessels transportation problem decreased? So the transportation by railroad a little bit improved to EU, and recently actually European Commission again extended free trade with Ukraine. There are some quotas, so it's not only about transportation, but transportation problems are a little bit less, because we built several big railway hubs on the border with Hungary and Romania. So it's kind of getting better. But talking about vessel transportation, yes, we will have it on the latest slides. It's getting better, but not for the new Priva, because with opened transportation through Black Sea ports, it's more profitable, less cost, let's say, less cost for transportation through Black Sea ports. I have here a little updated also data about plant protection products, and that is updated compared to the my previous presentation. So the only what I wanted to show you that there is some increase, positive increase, that even some areas that are occupied or near active hostilities still have enough plant protection products existed for farmers, especially Odessa, which is very close to port. So the situation is getting better. At the same time, some region like Lviv still have like less than 60% of their needs, and it's hard for me to understand what is the reason, since they are so close to border and can import this, but they still don't have enough, maybe because farmers don't have enough money, just simple to buy it. This is our latest supply and demand of grain, and I want to mention that our total harvest for grain is gonna be lower next year. If this year we harvested around 59.8 million tons of grain, next year it's gonna be 52.8. And this will result in lower export. So this year we expect to have totally around 44.5 million tons. That is a marketing year. So then next year totally we probably will have 36. So this is our latest estimates. So let's talk a little bit about export. Export for now getting better, and due to those solved issues with transportation through Black Sea ports, we exported even more already than we exported by this time last year, even almost the same like we totally exported wheat last marketing year. But this is not true for corn. Last year, we exported totally 29 million tons, and by this time, it was more than 26, and now we have just 25 million tons. But we had less corn, and this is understandable. So totally, we exported more than 44 million tons of all grain and legumes for now. And you can see that there is a positive dynamic and also a little bit better, more stable, let's say, revenue dynamic per ton, but it's still much lower compared to the previous year. This is a breakdown by crops, and for now, totally since the beginning of the war, we exported almost 132 million tons of different agricultural commodities, including corn, wheat, sunflower oil, rapeseeds, and others. This is how much dotted line, that is how much we exported by middle of May, and even if we double this, we still will be lower this month. So the export kind of slowing in May, and we expect that it will be also lower in June. This is breakdown by transportation type, and I want to mention that since the beginning of the war, this month in May, in April, we had a record exports through Black Sea ports. That is around 5.2 million tons of grain and oilseeds were exported through Black Sea ports. That is without oil, just grain and oilseeds. But you can see that Danube River was lower in March, but again, a little bit better in April. But if we would compare to the previous year, April and June and May, that is much lower, at least a third of what we had last year. And as I said, that is because of lower cost of shipments through Black Sea ports. As you can see, railway situation, even it's getting better, it's still lower exports using railway, and this is not because of the transportation problems, transportation issues, but because of the those limits, those quotas that Europe set for Ukraine, and we try to reorient our export and export more through Black Sea ports, and this means that we will ship this further than Europe, and that's why railway transportation of grain and oilseeds is getting lower. However, in April, totally, we got a record export that is almost what we had in December 2021 before the beginning of the war. But you can see how much structure changed, because that was not only 3 Odessa ports, right? But that was much more ports, including Kherson and Mykolaiv and some other ports of Ukraine. Let's take a quick look of export of main crops from Ukraine and our main importers. Next year, we expect lower export of corn compared to 2023. For now, our main importer, main destination is Europe, but also we have some import to China, Egypt, Turkey, and Israel. On a wheat market, we also expect some decrease in export next marketing year, up to 14 million tons. As for now, our main destination is European Union and Turkey. But I want to remind you that mainly that wheat that goes to Europe goes for re-export, because they are not really using this unless for milling, but they re-export this, especially Spain. we also started to deliver more to Bangladesh and Egypt and Lebanon. Barley export will also shrink to 2.3 million tons. As for now, our destination, again, main destination was Europe, Turkey, China, Libya, and Tunisia. So as you understand, the geography changed a lot, and China decreased a lot import of grain from Ukraine. At the same time, we spoke about this earlier, how much European countries buy now from Ukraine. But now what we see that China started to buy again more from Ukraine. However, Romania decreased their purchase, and Turkey, and also all European countries decreased. Spain just buying more and more, and we believe that they will replace China by the end of the marketing year with all the purchase from Ukraine of different grain. And there are new players like Pakistan and South Korea, and Indonesia actually returned to Ukrainian market. However, yesterday I read that Russia said that Russia became the biggest grain supplier to Indonesia, which actually before the war you can see that Indonesia was third buyer of Ukrainian grain, and now it's Russia, so they are switching to Russia. So this is how structure changed. Now about a little bit about sunflower seeds. We will decrease our export of sunflower seeds. That was because we didn't have enough capacity to process our sunflower seeds, and our storages were full of oil, so we started to sell more sunflower seeds. But now we are doing better, and we hope if all electricity issues will be solved, we will even more decrease our sunflower seeds export from Ukraine. Majority of our sunflower seeds goes to Europe, where they process this for sunflower oil, and also Turkey. With this, I would like to show you also sunflower oil export from Ukraine. It's pretty stable. It was some decrease related to increase of sunflower seeds export, but there is also changes in structure. Previously, India would buy much more, and China would buy much more sunflower oil, but now the share decreased because of transportation issues. Soybean export, since we're gonna produce more than around 5.2 million tons of soybeans, we're gonna increase our export, and a significant part of some soybeans goes to Turkey and Egypt. At the same time, we plan to increase soybean oil production and also export more. And here it's very diverse. Also structure, besides European Union, which is the main buyer of sunflower oil, soybean oil. So next year we hope to process more soybeans and sell not only beans but also oil. Rapeseed export, since we are expecting a little bit decrease in rapeseed production compared to this year, the export will also decrease. And this also the same with rapeseed oil. However, you can see how much higher rapeseed oil export was this year from Ukraine, which is record and very unusual. So we started to produce actually much more. We increased significantly our production of rapeseed oil. And next year, even there is gonna be some reduction in rapeseed oil export. It's still much higher, almost double higher than we had before the war. So the structure of agricultural production changes, and also export structure changes, as well as processing. We plan to increase processing of production of byproducts and their export, which is pretty positive because we will have high value added products which cost more, right? But they will bring more profit. So this is structure of oil seeds export from Ukraine, the oil seeds geography. And you can see that China decreased so much import from Ukraine. At the same time, Romania, which was even not on the list, now in last year was the first. We do not import anything since the beginning of the war to Belarus. Also, Bulgaria started to buy much more, Poland, Egypt. At the same time, you see India, which was our second buyer of oil seeds and byproduct, significantly decreased. We almost lost this, right, compared to what we have, over 3 million metric tons to over 260,000 tons for now, and this is really low. Bulgaria bought and left. They bought a lot and left our market. Germany, Egypt are increasing buying from Ukraine, and also Turkey now on the first place, even though they bought only a half of what they bought last year. But again, this is just a half of marketing year for oil seeds and byproducts. So we expect that it's gonna be better by the end of marketing year. Few words about prices, and you have my slides, and you can learn more detailed how prices are changed. But in general, you can see that there is positive dynamic, and prices started to raise for many crops. Unfortunately for US, there is some decrease in wheat prices. However, talking about Ukraine, even we are the cheapest, it's getting better. So we hope that our farmers will start receiving at least some profit. On a corn market, that is big surprise for us, that Ukrainian corn became more expensive than Argentinian or US corn. But I know that there are some shortage of US corn export, and this kind of situation happened. So Ukrainian corn is getting better. That is for the first time since the beginning of the war, our corn is more expensive than others. We are getting very close on the barley market with prices with Russia, but we're still way behind France and Australia prices. Here is some prices for soy, sunflower oil, and some other products that we export and byproducts. And as you can see, that Ukrainian sunflower oil is more expensive than Russian, but still much lower price than European price. On the soybean market, Ukrainian soybean was traded for 435, which is not on this graph, but you can see this from this table, which is again lower. But in general, for last month, there is some positive tendency, and there is some increase in prices on all crops, including grain and oil seeds. Now I have a few minutes to talk a little bit about Russia. If you are interested, you know that Russia is increasing their crops, they're increasing their production and so on area. And they say sometimes that they included to this new areas, as they called occupied Ukrainian territories or not. But however, there is some increase in all types of zone areas. And this is latest updates. You had this part on previous slides, and this is the new part, what they just published a few days ago. So they have planted 18.5 million hectares of winter crop, and they also plan to plant more than 30 million hectares of spring crops, and totally together it's gonna be more than 48 million hectares, which is again much more than 2021 or any other years. We'll see would this happen or not, but as for now, they planted 43% of spring crops, including almost 4 million hectares of winter crop out of 13.4 million hectares. They planted just a little corn, 1.8 million, but Russia was never the biggest corn producer and not the biggest exporter of corn. On the barley, they plan to have 7.2 million hectare, and together with winter crops, it's gonna be much not much higher, but very close to what they have. But actually, for winter crop, the winter wheat, they plan to have a little bit more. So this is what they plan and what they already planted and how much they expect to produce. Yesterday they told that they're gonna produce 134.5 million tons of grain and legumes. And this is lower compared to what they expected a month ago, because there is that happened returning frost in Russia, and many crops that they were already planted, or winter crops that were already on a field growing, were frozen. So especially on the south territories. So that is why they reduced their forecast for production in 2024. They expect 134.5 million tons, including 86.8 million tons. And this will reduce their export compared to this year. This year, they expect up to 70 million, which is unbelievable, including around 54, maybe even better, million tons of wheat. But now for next year, they expect no more than 47. I have new balances that I just got today for supply and demand of grain and also oil seeds in the next slides. So you can see how much production has changed since the beginning of the war. Before the war, they have 121, which is already with harvested from some occupied territories, and a record in 2022-23 marketing year, a little bit less this year, and next year it's gonna be even lower. And this reflects export. However, looking on their ending stocks, they're still very, very high. And it's a little bit better situation in this May compared to previous May. But if we would compare wheat stocks in May 2022, they're almost twice higher, right, compared to 2 years ago. So even with higher export, and Russia reports all the time that their export each month is bigger and bigger. They still have pretty high ending stocks, and even there is kind of tendency that they are lower in this year compared to previous. They are still much higher compared to the pre-war level. Then on the sunflower and other oil seeds, there's a sunflower, soybean, and rapeseed, just 3 oil seed crops in Russia. So their harvest pretty stable. So they didn't get more. So mainly what they got from Ukraine, that is grain production, not the oil seeds production. And they do not export so much. Even compared to Ukraine, we are still top exporters of sunflower seeds, oils, sunflower meals. However, they're gonna have pretty good export, even it kind of have tendency to decrease. And this is their ending stocks for oil seeds. You can see that this year they're even were higher in November than last year, much higher. But as for now, they had very intensive export, and their ending stocks kind of decreasing. However, if you would compare what they have now ending stocks in 2024, so compared to 2021, it's, I don't know, 4 times higher than it was in May 2022. So we'll see how they will deal with all those ending stocks and how they will impact prices for grain and oil seeds, because having so much stocks in hands, they can create some shortage and play with prices. But we hope that Ukraine will continue to play important role on a grain and oilseed market, and will help stabilize food security in all the world. So that is it. Sorry, it took me a little bit more than I planned, and if there are some questions, I'm gonna take them.
Can you tell me what Ukraine area Russia counts as their production?
So they for sure count Crimea, and they count Donbass, and they also count now Kherson and Zaporizhia, those areas that are occupied. So that are from on the first slide. If I would return to the first slide of the map, that those occupied areas. Yeah, this is the map that I wanted to return to. So this area that is occupied, that in red, this is what they count as their area now.
Thank you, Antonina. So the 3 areas, north, south, and east, is that what you're saying?
Yes. So this is Kherson region, and this is Zaporizhia region, and this is Donbass, which includes Luhansk and Donetsk region. Sometimes they do not include those areas because they are considered as independent republics, but they include those Crimea and Kherson and Zaporizhia for sure. Sometimes they include those. It depends where you get the information, and they can include or not include. But even if they don't mention, they still count the production. That is what I found from numbers, comparing them, with different sources, and comparing them. I see that they include anyway, just to hide stolen grain.
So others may know this, Rich, but I learned a while ago, I asked the World Outlook Board about the discrepancy between what Russia was releasing and what we were releasing for production. And World Outlook Board uses the State Department borders until they're told otherwise. That was the response from World Outlook Board.
Okay. Is there anything else here? I think I'll take that down. Return to here. There was a question, Antonina. Anything you'd like to share about how your family's doing?
They're doing well. My daughter just graduated from high school, and we are going to K-State. Yoo-hoo! Yeah. And my son finished middle school, and he is going, or finished elementary school and is going to middle school. So yesterday was the last day. Yeah. So they're doing well. Thank you.
All right. Last call, folks. Appreciate you being on here. We've got a few other things coming up. We'll continue having some Ukraine stuff along the way, but next week, Dan O'Brien has his grain marketing webinar. And then on June 3rd, we have some stuff with the Kansas Farm Management Association and net farm income statistics from 2023. They've wrapped that up and posted it. So that will be coming up on June 3rd. I'm not seeing anything else. So thanks again, Antonina, and folks, thanks for being on.
Thank you, and see you next time. Have a good summer.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.